Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel, and we're back to those Proverbs, which honestly the best part of the Proverb series are all the Proverbs you're sending to me. I'm learning so much about so many different cultures' Proverbs, and we're going to keep doing this forever, I think. But let's take on today's Proverb. It is, every cloud has a silver lining. This is something that's in song, you name it, so I'm sure you've heard this one. Interestingly, I started thinking about this video on a rainy day, and I happen to love rainy days, but that was when it came and I was looking at the gray clouds. But when our lives are full or fill up with proverbial clouds, for example, narcissistic relationships, we all sort of hope that there is a reason, there's something good might come out of the suffering and confusion of the narcissistic relationship. The traditional meaning of this proverb is that every dreary or difficult thing in our lives has a potentially positive element to it. It's one of those lines, one of those proverbs that's supposed to get us through the tough times, right? Every cloud has a silver lining. It's going to be fine. It's sort of interesting. This phrase has its origins back in the writer John Milton, in a poem he wrote in 1634 with the line, "Did a sable cloud turn forth her silver lining on the night?" This line has since been modified by various authors and now turned into its current form of every cloud has a silver lining. Well, I'm going to be honest with you, not all these proverbs are good, and this proverb has both dangerous and useful elements in our understanding of narcissistic relationships. So let's start with the dangerous parts, and let's just get the dangerous stuff out of the way and work our way to the silver lining, I guess. Proverbs like this one, that every cloud has a silver lining, can often end up becoming part of the arsenal of justifying and rationalizing these kinds of relationships and the positive nonsense that keeps people stuck in these relationships. The cloud, which is the toxic relationship, is believed to possibly have a silver lining. So a person in a toxic relationship justifies the bad stuff, hoping for the good stuff, the so-called silver lining. And silver linings can be everything, from focusing on the one good day you had in that relationship to perhaps the financial freedoms that come with being in a relationship with a narcissistic person. You might say something like, oh, they're an absolutely terrible person, but we do take some great vacations. And unfortunately, these silver lining binding patterns can keep people stuck for longer. The longer you mine these silver linings, the worse it is. And the longer a person is stuck in one of these relationships, you already know, the worse that it is for your health. Proverbs like this whole silver lining one are often held up and given out by those positivity folks who love telling people to look for the positive and share gratitude and intention your way to happiness and all that stuff, right? All of that, quite lovely. Great. But I cannot get behind it if it invalidates the experience of the person in a narcissistic relationship. Too often, when a person finds themselves in a toxic relationship, and for example, they might go in for therapy or coaching or some kind of guidance, too often I have heard that they're given silly feedback like, well, why don't we talk about some of the positive things in this relationship? And I literally either want to scream or cry when I hear this, because I want to tell the person, telling them to look for that silver lining positive stuff. Trust me, this person has spent a lot of time doing their best to over-focus on the so-called positive things in a quest to minimize their psychological horror at the abuse that's happening to them. So when people are told to find these silver linings, it plays against the cognitive dissonance that keeps them stuck and stokes the fires of the justifications that keep them really stuck. So you tell them to look for that silver lining, and it also, you get this person who also ends up blaming themselves. They think, oh, maybe I'm not finding enough silver linings. But you are wondering, is there a good side of this proverb for survivors? I actually think yes, there is. When we think about the work of existential writers, especially people like Viktor Frankl or Rollo May or people like Edith Eger, they are saying in the most eloquent way that suffering can be mined for meaning and purpose, that we can be present with our suffering and learn from it, not hang out in it or want more of it or seek it out, but rather to attempt to embark on a journey of post-traumatic meaning, purpose, and growth. So many survivors of narcissistic abuse are worried that after they get the divorce or they leave the narcissistic relationship or set the boundaries with family members, friends, partners, whatever, that they will forever be harmed, mired in grief, unable to trust, and permanently cynical. What I am actually observing in myriad survivors over time is that most people actually get to that place of growth, to a place of less fear, of finding meaning and purpose in what happened to them, of finding joys in small moments and not having those joys stolen by someone else's bitterness, and not finding joys in justifying another person's bad behavior, but in the beauty around them. But all of that means making a shift. It doesn't mean getting out of the relationship necessarily. I know some of you can't. It doesn't even necessarily mean going no contact. But it means recognizing these toxic relationships for what they are. Setting real boundaries. Yeah, maybe going no contact, maybe getting out, at least gray rocking, but at a minimum, at least eradicating the false hope. At that point, once you are no longer in the haze of as much confusion, you start to see what you have learned from being in this relationship or these relationships. Perhaps you've learned a certain mental toughness that you didn't have before, or have dug into a deeper patience, a deeper empathy, a far greater appreciation for good friendships, a better ability in terms of cultivating your own solitude, an appreciation for small moments. Even if the small moment is simply like, wow, I just got through the whole evening and no one criticized me. You have the ability to be present and less ruminative. To me, the silver lining is what comes after the narcissistic relationship. So don't try to waste your time trying to find silver linings while you're in the relationship, because that's going to keep you stuck. But do the work, understand the relationship, figure out your path forward, and once you do, then you can go looking for that silver lining. Not in that toxic relationship, but in yourself. So next time you go out on that rainy day or that cloudy day, look up, think about those silver linings, but stop trying to find them in other people and instead look for them here. Thanks again.